Hey guys, hope you guys are doing well. I know you'll have an exam coming up in a couple of days, so I just wanted to make a quick video going over the content we covered in class for osmosis and diffusion. I made this hopefully addressing some of the confusions y'all had on the in-class activity. So something y'all were struggling with a little bit was just the terminology. Most of y'all seem to understand the concept pretty well, but the terminology can be confusing, especially if you're not familiar like with a lot of these words. So we can just start by going over with that. So obviously there are the three big like concentration terms, hypertonic, isotonic, and hypotonic. So initially these can kind of seem strange, but they're actually quite intuitive. So hypertonic, meaning more tonics, or in this case, it would usually be salt or glucose. So I'll just write more tonic. Hyper meaning more, hypertonic, more tonic. Isotonic, isolation meaning the same. So it would be same tonic or same concentration because they could also have 0 and 0, and that would also be isotonic. And then hypotonic, like hypothermia, hypo meaning less, so there's less tonic. Something important to keep in mind with these terms is that they are relative. Two other things that I would like to point out is the cell and the environment, and that these terms are relative to these two things. So if the cell is hypotonic, it has less tonics, that means that the environment is hypertonic. It has more tonics, it has more salt, if that makes sense. Something else that we can cover is diffusion and osmosis. Everyone can kind of, from what I gathered, tell that both of these usually mean from high to low concentration. So diffusion is the net movement of molecules from a high to low concentration of solutes. Let me clarify that. So osmosis, on the other hand, is the net movement of water and typically a semi-permeable cell. Osmosis is also high to low concentration of water, but in terms of the solute, it would technically be low to high because we think of it like, so let's say that you have a cell in a hypertonic environment. So if the cell is semi-permeable, meaning the molecules cannot pass through, and this we'll say is, I said the environment was hypertonic, so we'll say this is 40% salt, and this has no salt. So this has less water than the inside of the cell. So the water is going to move out into the environment. So the water is moving from its concentration of high, 100% water, to a concentration of low. So that 40% salt, it would only have 60% water. But in terms of the solute, it would be moving from an area of low solute concentration, none, to an area of high, 40%. So just keep these in mind when you go over these questions, that these terms are relative, and also that osmosis is high to low in terms of water, but not in terms of solute. So if you guys want to take a second and pause the video, I have a practice question on the board that you can look at, and then we'll go over it after you unpause it. So similar to the kind of practice problem, I guess, I just went over, if a semi-permeable cell consisting of 30% salt is placed in an environment and water moves into the cell, what is the concentration of the environment? So this question is phrased a little bit differently than the ones you guys saw in the in-class activity, but the overall concept is still pretty much the same. 30% salt in the cell, so we can write that, is placed in an environment and water moves into the cell. So water is moving into the cell via osmosis because it is semi-permeable. What is the concentration of the environment? So we know that water will move from an area of high water concentration to low water concentration, or an area of low solute to high solute. Low to high for solute, high to low for water. So if water is moving into the cell, that means the environment has to have a higher concentration of water. So we know that if it has a high concentration of water relative to the cell, then it has a low concentration of tonic, a low concentration of solute. Thus, the cell or the environment would be hypotonic. So I would encourage you guys to um, review the in-class activity and just make sure that you understand these, because these questions are not extremely difficult on the exam, but you just wouldn't want to make a simple mistake and miss it. So I will see you guys in class on Monday.